recording. There you go. Got it. Awesome. Okay, welcome everyone to the Thursday, July 6th, 2023 Solar Eclipse QSO Party Telecon. It's nice to see everyone. We've got a couple of, at least one new face for sure. From the University of Pennsylvania. Steve, if you wouldn't mind a quick introduction, would be great.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Steve Betza. I'm a professor of practice at Penn State, and I had reached out to Nathaniel about 6 weeks ago, and we had the pleasure of meeting in Scranton a few weeks back. Good to see you again, my friend. And a little bit of just quick background. I've been an amateur for 45 years. I was not licensed as a novice in 1978. Then spent nearly 40 very busy years in the aerospace industry at IBM and Lockheed Martin, and did a little bit of a welcome back Cotter to come back to Penn State and teach engineering leadership, but also start up a bit of an applied RF education thrust at least one of our Commonwealth campuses, the Altoona campus, just south of State College. And so I've been sponsoring for the better part of 5 to 7 years, amateur-related capstone projects, undergraduate research, the like. Had been watching Nathaniel's progress from afar, and it was time to jump in with HAMSci and become part of the Eclipse event, and also look for ways that we can just humbly contribute with some undergraduate energy for both the fall and the spring. And so here to listen a lot today and see what next steps are appropriate for us. Thanks.
Good, thank you, Steve. Yeah, it's a good group here, and I appreciate especially the diversity of interests and backgrounds and educational levels and all that sort of thing we have today. So you can see right, well, at least on my screen below you is Mackenzie there from Old Dominion. We've got myself, I'm a graduate of Case. We've got Adarsh, you're out there in California, is that correct?
Yep, I'm in California.
Yep. So we've got Nick up there in British Columbia. So we've got a pretty good crew here, I think. So hopefully you'll find it interesting and come back whenever, week to week, whenever you can.
Thank you. And medium frequency interest, by the way, for whenever that becomes appropriate. But look, I understand you got folks looking at all different parts of the spectrum for the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, the medium wave stuff is something that we've definitely got going on for the Eclipse events. And we've got at least 2 participants that are really familiar with that sort of thing, 2 or 3 today. So that's a good thing. All right. If that's okay, I will share the screen. We'll take a look at the agenda real quick. And then I want to show you a picture before I go too far. Let's see here. Get this out of the way. Move my Zoom panel. All right, go away. Okay. So we spent a fair amount of time. Ed's been one busy person on our public information activities. A couple of things, we try to keep a placeholder for our science topics in there, and I wanted to just at least mention not only Steve, but also some of the folks from RPI have been getting a hold of us, take a look at our numbers and whatnot. Before I get any further, is there anything anybody wants to add to the agenda too, just in case? Nope, okay. Well, there's one picture I wanted to show, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ed, and then that'll make sense. So this picture here, with the Solar Eclipse QSO Party business card, Ed found at the desk of ARRL headquarters in Newington when he walked in. So we've been, every person who walks in the headquarters has been seeing our little bit of an advertisement for the SEQP here, which is a pretty slick thing. And Ed can fill us a lot more in about that. So
yeah,
go ahead, Ed.
there was a little, I'm going to be a storyteller here today. So, and obviously it looks like I've got a good part of the agenda, but as many of you know, I'm from New Jersey and I talk rather rapidly. So this may be a quick meeting, I guess, but I'll get to the card in just a second. So, because I thought it was an interesting piece of, sort of who put the card there. Okay. And how did it happen? So, but that's all part of the story. So I guess since we last met, I guess it's been busy. I'll say that rather simply. We did have a press release that we had written regarding the NASA funding. And we put it up on the amateur radio newsline and we ran it on QRZ, and lo and behold, it stayed on the QRZ homepage for, I think, close to 3 to 4 days, which I thought was really great. And also it took a lot of views on amateur radio newsline. Got a nice note from Ward, just about the release itself. And, and obviously it got a little bit more exposure than just in terms of the number of days posted that I thought we had planned. So that was all well and good. So that got us started off and running, I think probably about 2.5 weeks ago. A week ago, last Wednesday, we had talked about how we were going to sort of look at the issue of our relationship with ARRL. In terms of whether it's sponsor, whether it's partner, I mean, whatever types of agreements that we could make. And the good salesman in me says, don't do it by email, go up there and actually talk to the customers. So that's what I did. I wandered up to Newington last Wednesday, and I met with Sierra Harrop, who's the new PR person, who chairs the Public Relations Committee, W5DX. And, and basically sort of talked about what HAMSI was, what the relationship is. And when you just walk in the door, you realize that, she was on board. It came up last night that if you go back to the picture that Gary put up, she thought that I left the card there when I came to the front desk. It turned out that I didn't, that it was Bob Innerbitson, NQ1R, who put the card there after he had been in Scranton, for the workshop. So it had gotten a lot of exposure, and Sierra didn't really realize where it was coming from. And it came because Bob had put it there. And now we've asked her if she wanted more cards so we can distribute more cards. And the answer is yes. So Gary, I'll be tapping you to do another mailing that we can get over to Newington. But basically, in talking with Sierra and obviously with Bob's backing, is that we've agreed that the ARO will be a partner with us. Sponsor is not a word that the league uses as a word that the sponsor for them is there's an exchange of funds and money. Partnership is that they're lending good offices and their resources for us in terms of being able to make our programs work. Obviously, as I think you've seen, I think in some of the things that Gary's posted, is that the league is running a story on HAMSI and or the QSO party in every one of their publications, and obviously it's run a little bit now on social media as well too. So so there's a full commitment in terms of what the league has been doing, for us, and obviously, and that was reinforced. As I'll talk a little bit more about a meeting that we had with the PR committee last night. So again, they'll be lending their good offices and their support. Have already reached out to Mike Walters, who is the club coordinator, about what we're looking to do in terms of background on HAMSI and on the QSO party, which was a recommendation that came out of the meeting that we had with the PR committee last night. So let me roll forward. So coming out of the meeting last Wednesday, we had an agreement that we would be a partner. We've included that in terms of our correspondence going forward, so that we've got our funding sponsors as well as we've got our partner with the league going forward. Last night, just to roll forward a week, every month the PR committee meets to discuss PR matters before obviously the ARL board and the ARL committee. This was a little bit serendipitous because I thought I was going to get a short part of the program to talk about HAMSI and the QSO party, but actually got a little bit more time than was planned. And actually at the front end of the meeting was a discussion by 2 of the board members, Jim Robert Stratton, N5AUS, who's the Western Gulf director, and none other than Rick Roderick, K5UR, who obviously is the board chair. And they were talking about legislative activities. I got on the call about 15 minutes early, and lo and behold, there was John Robert Stratton, and we ended up spending most of our time talking about HAMSI, which I thought was a rather interesting segue. He's fully on board, knew what the program was, and before the meeting even started, he offered to lend good offices for us in terms of spreading the word around regarding participation in the QSO party, and also getting more information around about HAMSI. And he asked me if I would follow with him today, just on our correspondence and our meeting last night, and I already have. And then from there, I mean, the basic, the meeting itself after the legislative part of the program was basically me talking about HAMSI, bringing the committee up to speed as to, what HAMSI is and what the QSO party is going to be doing, what our objectives are going forward, and with the primary goal of asking the committee first off, to lend its good offices to be able to get the word out through their network. The committee represents a pretty diverse group of people across the country. So I think we've got a pretty good geographic representation getting off the board in terms of spreading the word about the QSO party and HAMSI. From there, obviously, we'll be taking a look at using the PR reflector to be able to get more word out. And I'm also looking at leveraging now the directors because, with Stratton on board, hopefully we get Rick Roberts, I'll confirm with him. But lo and behold, about 2/3 of the way through my presentation, a member of the legislative committee who missed the legislative part of the meeting stumbled into the meeting. And it was none other than K9LA, Carl Lutzenschwab, who's a good friend of HAMSI. So I just turned the program over to Carl, and he did about 5 minutes talking about the value of HAMSI to the PR committee. So I couldn't have had a better spokesperson, than somebody, unsolicited testimonial, as they would say in the business. So and also I think we also got an interesting bit of feedback from one of the committee members, Desiree Backus, N3DEZ, who turns out works for NASA. And she mentioned the fact that NASA is fully immersed in terms of looking at what HAMSI is doing, that she's going to be looking to share a list with us. Apparently, NASA partners with a number of amateur radio clubs and shares what they're doing in terms of scientific experiments. This was not known to me. Nathaniel, I don't know if this was background for you as well, too. But she said that she would share her list and also activities, particularly in the STEM area, that NASA is going to be working with in terms of some of the areas around the eclipse going forward, and obviously how that impacts on HAMSI. So I think we had a really good meeting. I think we had a chance to really explore really what HAMSI was and what we're looking to do, and that is to become aware of what we're doing in terms of October 14th, and then in April. To get on the air, to submit a log, and be part of the program. So hopefully we'll be able to see, some real good results coming up with that going forward. Just other things in terms of, work in progress is that we're looking to get contest listings up. Both in terms of QRZ and CQ, I'm reaching out to Bart Janke, as well as to Rich Moseson at CQ to make sure that we've got those listings secured for the October event. And then from there, the other pieces that we're going to be looking at is over the 2-week hiatus, I put together a list of contest clubs, using them as a potential target audience. And I used, as I mentioned to Gary earlier, I used the CQ Worldwide CW contest as my basic guide in terms of looking at North American clubs, because obviously when we're looking at CW operators, they can contribute a lot to us in terms of what we're looking to do, for the QSO party. So we'll be doing a separate mailing to them. We'll also be doing obviously emails and flyers, to the HAM contest, not on contest clubs, but also to the club lists that we can work through the PR reflector and through the PICs and PIOs through ARRL. So one thing that I will ask of you, and we'll be following this up separately, is that, I think looking around the end of July, the first part of August, is that we're going to be reaching out. If you recall, if you've been sort of following the meetings here longitudinally, is that we've purchased a sort of a blogger podcast list, and we'll be looking to reach out to them in terms of getting some of our people on air to be able to talk about the QSO party and HAMSI. So I'll be looking for volunteers, because obviously Gary and I are be looking to put together a short list so that as we schedule programs regarding podcasts, et cetera, and also for workshops around clubs or organizations that want to know more about HAMSI and or the QSO party. And maybe Gary can talk a little bit about North Dakota in a second as an example of that. But that's what we're going to be looking to do. If we have a short list, it makes it easier for us to schedule people and not disappoint anyone going forward. So, so that's basically the piece here. I'd like to turn the program. I guess first off, are there any questions? I know, again, I'm from Jersey, so I talk really fast here. And, and hopefully you get a sense that, there's a lot of things in play. And, and hopefully between now and first part of August, that we'll sort of have our first mailings, to some of these other groups that we have, to get out and running. So any questions or comments?
Yeah, just one. I know Mackenzie, you were working a little bit on some of the lists for the contest clubs and whatnot too. I don't know if you're working with that. Or I just didn't want you. I didn't want to see anybody's work go to waste.
Yeah, we don't want to
that's
work
for
at
sure.
cross purposes. So
I do. I have a working list of contest clubs. I don't.
Okay.
Did I send it to you, Ed? Did I send it to you? Or
no, if I could, because I did, I wouldn't have gone through the, some of the 3830 lists.
okay.
So, so maybe we should change, because I know I'm missing some. I know just looking at the list from, or the bio yesterday from N5AUS is that I missed a club in Texas that he
Okay.
was a member of. So I know it's not a totally complete
I'll
list.
send you all of the databases I have.
That'll be perfect. Thank you. So questions or comments? So there's a lot of things in play right now. So.
That all sounds really excellent, Ed.
So, and hopefully, just obviously in terms of, getting things moving. I know I'll get some feedback from the PR committee almost immediately. So we'll get a sense, because I did ask for any suggestions or improvements that we can make in sort of a first, first round of outreach. So I don't want to shortchange Nick here, because obviously he's got a piece in terms of looking at the AM SWL piece. So perhaps Nick, now might be a good chance to turn the program over to you for anything, for obviously where you are over the last couple of weeks and help that you need.
Okay, Ed, thank you for some assistance that I've been getting. I did place a suggested sort of a contribution that would put out to the medium wave clubs, the shortwave listening, blogs, etc., in early August to drum up interest in the medium wave listening exercise. And Ed has been giving me some pointers on how to make it punchier and so forth. I can bring it up if you like, but it's fairly straightforward. So let's see if we can actually. Do I have something here about sharing screen? Yes. And of course, as usual, even though there we go. Okay. It's essentially, just a news release, if you get me, saying that there are going to be 2 solar eclipses coming up, and that they have DX opportunities for medium wave listeners. But the rest of it really concentrates on the upcoming one on the 14th of October, because it just otherwise loses focus a bit. And the fact that the annular eclipse will have a similar effect to radio listening as the total one is going to have, and also giving the path. So the primary thing is, how to get people on side with this, and a brief description of HamSci and the fact that we want as many participants as possible. We do have the web page that Gary has put up on the medium wave recordings that can be linked to, and making sure that these files can qualify as scientific data as well as DX records for the personal use of the DXer. And then a final reference to the whole HamSci project, the whole and the solar eclipse QSO party and so forth. So I will see if I can stop that now and come back. And as I say, this is going to be put out in early August. The one question that I had coming out of this is that, we have the web page, and we have a sort of a sign up list. That's not the right word, for interested participants. But should there be any mention of like a personal email, for people who have further questions? And I sort of throw that back out to the group for ideas as to whether that's a good idea or not. Ed has the same issue in terms of personal contact. So what do other people think, please?
I think it's always good, people visit a web page and they've got further questions. A number of the other many of the pages in the Hamside site have a button to send something back to hamside@hamside.org. But if
Mhm.
we could get an address that was more focused on the medium wave event, I'd certainly build that into the website. It's pretty easy to do.
We may
Okay.
already actually have one set up
Okay,
Mhm.
because I think Nick, when you for the last eclipse, you talked to me about this, and I think we set one up for you. I'm gonna- Well, I'm
We're
looking at
talking
the-
ancient history.
I know I'm looking in the system now, and I will be able to tell you if this is still true, and if so, I can give you access to it.
that would certainly
Okay.
work. So, yeah.
I
Mhm.
am checking. While I'm checking, you can keep going.
Okay, so the only other point of interest, and this sort of dovetails a bit also with what Ed's going on about, is I do have a couple of potential contacts in Brazil. As you can see from the little map that I brought up, the eclipse will be going through a good chunk of northern Brazil as well. I have not heard back from either of them, but one of them is in fact an online journalist with amateur radio and broadcast interests. So it would be really worthwhile to get him on side with this. So I'm still hanging in there, waiting to hear what interest there is. My start is just simply to find out if there are medium wave listening clubs in Brazil that would like to have this announcement that's going out in August. And the final thing is actually, and this may be more a science question, but I actually got a HamSci member responding to Gary's announcement of the medium wave listening web page, and he is in Portugal, which is not near the eclipse particularly. But was asking about whether there would be interest in having listeners outside the eclipse zone. And this is, like I say, more a scientific question. What I could see is that, it's getting dark in Portugal at the time the eclipse is ending in Brazil. So it would definitely bring, there would be early nighttime conditions starting perhaps in Portugal, but I don't want to discourage anybody from participating. At the same time, I'm not sure how useful it would be, or on the other hand, if it's going to be useful, what sort of approach should be taken to the recording? So, do we have any science feedback on that?
I think communications over South America are going to be valuable. I can bring the map up again, the animation, and you can see that there is a partial eclipse over a significant portion of South America. If you're talking to people on the other side of the eclipse, I could see that being valuable.
Okay, when you say the other side of the eclipse, he's on the other side of the Atlantic because he's in Portugal.
Oh, he's in Portugal. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's probably less valuable scientifically, but I'm not going to say that they can't. Last time we had people all over the world participate in.
Yeah. Okay. That was my gut feeling as well, was that I would not discourage participation. It would be more along the lines of what's the best way to participate, given that we're not quite sure whether there's anything of value there. But anyway, I will continue to encourage him, and of course anybody else who's outside the zone. Okay. I think I will throw that back to you then, Gary.
Okay, let's make sure, Ed, is there anything else that you
unless
wanted to
Ed's
finish
finished.
up?
Yeah, just I guess one last little piece, and that always, for anybody in the PR business, it's sort of called hand-to-hand combat. I'll be up at the Sussex Hamfest, which is the largest hamfest in New York, the New York metro area, 2 weeks. I think it's July 17th. And Nathaniel, I'll be donning my white smock at least one more time.
Wonder.
And I've got another 300 cards from Gary, so I'll be working the table at the ARL booth and handing out Hamside cards at the same
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Which Hamfest is that again?
Yeah, Sussex. It's Sussex.
Sussex.
Yeah.
When is that going to be?
I think it's July 17th. It's 2 weeks from, I think it was 2 weeks from last Sunday.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I'm going to be either in or on my way to Switzerland. So I don't think I'll be able to make that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say hello for you. So,
It's been a busy summer.
yep, I can imagine. So anyway, but but that's just, I mean, the last piece is obviously the more personal contacts we can all make as a group with, with people, really sort
Yeah.
of, sort of binds, the relationship with Hamsci and,
Yes.
it creates an instant reminder of what I need to do, that type of thing. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let me turn the program back over to Gary. Thank you. And thank you, Nick.
Gary?
Yeah, sure, David, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on the MFDX side of things, we've just getting our students back for our summer term. And we're gonna have them tasked with looking at our the build out of our system. And one of the immediate tasks is to come up with a list of the AM stations that we will be looking at.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And when we have that finalized, I'll share that.
Yeah, that would be a real help. Okay. And actually sort of from a flip side is that, I sort of looked, in fact, when I sort of looked in terms of like general public, it's really, I sort of looked more at the television side than I looked at the AM side, just in terms of getting press coverage, that type of thing.
Right.
But anything you can do on that area would certainly save us some time. So,
Yeah, and there is a preview available, the talk that I gave at the workshop. We did put a list in there of our proposed stations.
Yeah.
They all happen to, we're trying to favor the high end of the band because you get better Doppler shift off of them.
Yep. Yep.
But people can look at that list, and that's a preliminary. We'll finalize that hopefully shortly.
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, well, that was quite an update. I mean, obviously, as you said, Ed, there's a lot of irons in the fire, and you've stirred the pot more in the last couple of weeks, I think. So that was in the last few months, so that's outstanding. The timing's been pretty good because I've been spending a little bit more of my time on the great projects and whatnot. So having you guys handle this, carry this load is pretty valuable. Okay, let's see what else I wanted to cover today. Yeah, I'll reiterate what Ed said too, is that he's got all this publicity going out and flyers going out and press releases going out. You never know where you're going to get these requests to do these talks from. As he said, it totally out of the blue about a month ago, the North Dakota section meeting sent me an email and said, hey, could you talk about Hamsci and the Solar Eclipse QSO party at our section meeting on July, whatever this Saturday coming up is? And I said, sure. So we've done a couple of tests and that sort of thing. I just happened to be going to actually on a bike ride, but also the Northern Ohio DX Association meeting next Monday night. And I said, they're DXers, not time testers, but I said, hey, would you guys like to hear 15 minutes about the SEQP and so on and so forth? And they said, sure. So they're bringing a projector, I'm bringing my laptop, and I'll try to make something happen there. So, but we're going to need good presenters. We've got a few on the call. We've got Ron, we got myself, we've got Ed, we got Nathaniel and stuff, but other people that are interested. Remember, we've got a standardized presentation. You don't have to develop all the slides. It's on a Google Drive. I can share it with anybody if anybody wants to look at it before they decide to commit and volunteer. But people that could speak on our behalf would certainly be welcome. They're definitely needed.
Yeah.
Hey,
and-
Gary.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
No, Ron, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
So just not near to the magnitude of what Gary and Ed have, but the article in CQ came out, had quite a bit about the Eclipse. And then I know here in Utah, I've been pushing it with clubs and presentations, and we'll be getting with the Utah section manager. And again, we're not near the populated areas out here, but a lot of different attempts and work being done on it. So.
Yeah, that's a good thing to recognize, Ron. You're right. They're getting an article published in CQ, and that happened pretty quickly. You think about it, it's quite an accomplishment. I mean, there's only a couple major amateur radio journals, right? And that's one of them. So that's a huge win. So congratulations to you and everyone who helped review that too. Okay, let's see.
One last thing, I guess, Gary, that just popped into my head, is that there was a post on one of the POTA sites a couple of days ago, and I mentioned it to Gary. because they were talking about Hamsai and getting involved. And I guess, the question that we had is that being that POTA activations are rather short in nature, how do we feel? Yeah, I think at some point we're going to need to respond. I do know the guy who runs the POTA operation because we've had him as a speaker a couple of times. So I guess, just some feelings about if there's some groundswell about POTA operators participating in Hamsai. Do we have any ground rules or restrictions regarding how we want to handle that?
I'd say probably not. I mean, I'm just remembering the pictures of 2017 where the NJIT was out in the field, right, doing some operating. I know for sure we want people to stay put because we've got a moving Eclipse, we've got moving stations, and it's kind of hard to I would imagine, to draw any conclusions from that. But Nathaniel, what's your thought about if somebody was on the air for just a few hours or 6 hours or whatever it might be?
Or even less sometimes for some of these activations, 10
I mean,
calls or less,
I mean, I think that's just fine. I mean, that's kind of the nature of this particular type of experiment. And that's part of what, we have to deal with big data. Everyone who wants to get on the air is allowed to get on the air. That's what the Solar Eclipse QSO party is about.
Great.
Hey, Ed, just one other thought too is when you look at contests and events and state QSO parties and all of that, typically you've got everything from people that are on for 30 minutes to an hour. There's a lot of casual people to those that are on for the full 24, which I'm too old for that anymore. But I would agree with Nathaniel that I think it would be important that it's totally inclusive, because so many people, at least some that I've talked to, said, oh yeah, I'd like to get on, I've got a couple of hours. And I think we would lose quite a few if we gave an impression that it needed to be longer. Anyway, my 1.5 cents worth.
I mean, we have some experiments. We have the TDOA experiment. We have the GRAPE experiment. We have some of these things that are really focused on more precision sorts of, or a more standard scientific approach. And if you look at the other, the standard scientific instrumentation, you look at SuperDARN, you look at the GNSS to electron content, you look at the Anassance, they're all going to be running in a very carefully scripted manner. But this is ham radio, and one of the things we're trying to do here is have fun with it and then see what we can do with.
I don't want to squash any enthusiasm. That's why I didn't respond. Also, he didn't have his email address on QRZ, so that saved me a reply.
Right.
Nonetheless, but there's a good opportunity. I mean, done right. And I'll pitch this to the guy who runs POTA. Is that, this could be, because the first eclipse is obviously on a Saturday. And so, that just really lends itself to a lot of operations. So,
and there's another way to look at it too. The ham radio and what's going on here is a real communication system, where people are actually using it as a communication system. And so I think it's an interesting research question to say, how much scientific knowledge can you gain from looking at the observations of a communication system, just kind of that way.
Perfect.
So,
I'll take it from here. Thanks, guys.
So one thing, one comment I wanted to make, I would like to see if we could get more PR down into like Mexico and South America. I'm not sure if there's what's a good way to do that, but I think we should try to be inclusive of all the American continents.
Yeah, that's a good question. And maybe my first follow is, since I'm talking to Janky tomorrow at the headquarters, is to obviously find out who's got relationships with Mexican and South American clubs. Inside ARRL, and sort of use their short list. I can ask Sierra that as a favor as well.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, is to go through the league and kind of use those pre-existing collaborative channels.
Yeah, they're offering good offices. Let's take advantage of it. So
that's right.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks.
Also, one thing, I went to the local ham club last night, the Murgas Amateur Radio Club, and I failed to realize that the Pennsylvania QSO party is on the same Saturday as the Eclipse.
Such luck.
I know. So
Frankfurt Radio Club, here we go.
That's it. That's either luck or just very good planning on Nathaniel's part.
So I guess I agree, it'll definitely get more people on the air, but I'm wondering,
it changes the exchange.
It changes the exchange. And I want to be more inclusive and not less inclusive, but I could see how people who are in the Pennsylvania QSO party and have their log software set up for that might not want to also, I don't know. I don't know a good way to handle it. Again, I'm kind of like, people do what interests you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of this. You
Yeah,
can
yeah. Do you know Crivelli at all? I think you probably do, right?
Crivelli.
John Crivelli?
W2GD.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
rings a-
He's obviously their sort of front spokesperson. Maybe we
Okay.
should think about it and think about what we might want to ask. That
Yeah.
type of thing. So, or maybe ask him if you work one contest to work both, that type of thing. So, because
Yeah.
obviously they get a lot of participation in the Q, as 100 counties, 99 counties. So,
Yeah, I know it was a big deal to my club to be like part of the QSO party. So
Yeah.
I mean, I could see if we can move the eclipse to Friday instead of Saturday.
yeah,
and then
we'll talk to the moon, no problem.
yeah, we can.
Huh,
But
I learned something new every day. I didn't know you could do that. Thanks.
he
Slow
just
it down, as they say, right?
yeah.
No, all you gotta do is go to Elon Musk and ask him. You'll see what he can do.
Centrifugal force. Here we go.
I thought it was pull the wool over the old guys. Hey, Ed,
Yes.
if you get something in Mexico, I know that they love having presenters from the US side of things. So you might also look at that as you're looking at some of those
Okay.
Mexican contacts of even
Yep.
doing presentations down there. You might have already thought of that. I just
Well,
wanted
no,
to
I
throw it
obviously,
in.
sort of, who's who is be the first piece. So,
Oh yeah, exactly.
yeah, I know the newspaper business down there, but not necessarily the ham club business. So we'll see. So,
It's funny. I never realized the thing about the Pennsylvania QSO party either here. I've got at least 3 plaques in my closet because the guy I usually operate with is a mobile. It's just a fantastic operator. I drive, he operates, and I get the plaques because he's got too many of them. So that saves me from getting another plaque this year. But I have to tell him we're going on Monday that he's gonna have to find another driver. Okay. What else? Any science topics you want to bring up, Nathaniel, or we?
Maybe I'll just give a little update from CEDAR. So at CEDAR there were a number of sessions about eclipse science. People getting ready for the eclipses. I think we're on a good track in general. I don't really have too much to say about the science right now, aside from what we've already done. I think one thing is now that once the NASA grant starts getting set up, Gareth is going to go try and hire a postdoc to be the person who does the main scientific analysis of all of this. So I think that's one thing. And then the second thing is, I think a really good target for all of this is we have the SAMI3 models, and we have a way of showing, that our data agrees with the model to some point, but we don't really have closure where you take the model and you feed back the information from the radio observations into the model. And I think that would be a really good target to go after. See if we can really try and use the observations we get to go back and inform the model. But I think these are more discussions we're going to have as once Gareth comes back and start thinking about it again and we get the postdoc on.
Okay, great, thank you. A couple other things I was thinking about. There's a note on the agenda about the SEQP scoring committee, and I haven't done much on that lately. Though Jay Swartz, WB at SBI, did write up a pretty good document, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, so I need to do that, and we'll get that cranked up a little bit. I see Bob ACHZU is here. I know you and I had some discussions about the FT8 scoring and operations. Are we finalized on it? Is there anything else we need to talk about at some point, or because I've been doing a little FT8 lately, it's kind of fresh in my mind.
Yeah, we probably should talk maybe.
Okay.
Let's get together and talk. I was
Okay.
also, just on a side note, you're talking about publicity and data, and obviously looking at big data and cleansing. I use the word cleansing. One of the things probably up front is, I think if I understand from Nathaniel and others and yourself, is that the grid somebody's located at is very important. So if it's POTA or whatever it might be, that, and even existing stations that they are providing an updated grid, the correct grid. Even in FT8, sometimes people cut it out for faster transmission. I mean, just maybe just a little bit as the publicity is, and I'm not a publicity guy, but if you're going to get all this data, you might as well get it as valuable as you can. And I think grid is one of those key components.
Yeah, and that gives me an idea too for, sort of like a continuing campaign, as we get closer, is to make sure that if you're participating, we want you to participate, but obviously if you're participating, accuracy in terms of grid squares are important, just like we were talking about the other day in terms of accuracy and signal reports, that type of thing. So all good. And that gives me a good idea regarding what we might want to do in terms of communication. So thank you for that, Bob.
Okay, yeah, I just want to let you know about it. That was still top of mind. I knew we still had some discussions to go on that, so that's good.
Yeah, and the last thing, Gary, and what we have the other two is a reference to the award group, the FD8 award group. I don't know if you ever heard
Yes.
of them. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I forgot. Were you going to try and contact them, or was I? Where do we leave that?
Well,
at?
that's probably another reason I thought you were,
Okay.
but I know you've been extremely busy, so maybe the both of us can kind of talk about that as well, because it seems like that's a
Okay.
pretty good opportunity for data.
Okay, I know I've got your email. We've talked before, so we'll get together in a quick Zoom call or something early next week and
Yeah,
figure out
and
where
that's
we're at then.
yeah, and probably pull Ed into that at some point.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Is there anything else that's about all I had?
I sent you, Gary, and Nick Hall-Patch the password for the AM-Eclipse email.
Okay, nice. So yeah, we've got our Hamside email address. Ed's got one for in public
Press info,
relations.
yeah, press relations.
I almost said investor relations, but no, that isn't. And now we've got one for the AM1 Venom too. So okay, that's good. We're moving along quite well. Okay.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to chuckle is I was looking at Dave McGraw, you're in your office, and if that doesn't look like a physics building office, I've never seen one that looked better looking physics office. And in fact, I even brought my picture up of the physics building at Case, Rockefeller, which is 100 and some odd years old. That's why Ampere and Wheatstone's names are above my head on the call, but I figured it kind of fit.
Yep. I'll have to bring up a picture of Wilder one of these times. Our
There you
physics
go.
building.
There you go. So
We just took a
good.
new picture, so I'll have to find it.
Yeah, Case is undergoing a little bit of a building boom on the quad over there, so it's have new pictures in a few years. Okay. Anything anybody else wants to bring
Yeah,
up?
maybe
Otherwise,
just one quick question. This is just pure selfish. For any of us that are out there, do you personally know your division director?
Absolutely.
Okay, David, could you forward on contact information then? And might I use you as a reference like I did
absolutely.
last night?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Fred Kemmerer.
Okay, Fred Kemmerer. Okay, I've met Fred, but I can't say that I know him.
Yeah, no, you can.
Yeah,
You can
because
use
what
my
I want
name
him
in
to
vain.
do is to get the word out to the clubs. And obviously, if we need to do a dog and pony show or something like that, that we can tie that all together. So
Yep.
You can tell I'm a marketer, right? So yeah. Thank you for that. If anyone
Yeah,
else,
absolutely.
let me know. So because I'm trying to cover as much as I can. Obviously with Roderick being on the call yesterday, I am going to follow with him because if we can get a mention in the board meeting, that would be like really cool. So I would not discourage that at all, but it just saves time to do outreach if people know people, that type of thing.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
all right, great. Is that a wrap for tonight then? Everybody's good?
Think
Got
I'm
a
good.
lot done. Good, lot of good cross coordination and communication groups. So, all right, thanks everyone very much. Everybody have a nice warm July week.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you,
We'll
Gary.
talk
Thank
next
you,
Thursday
everybody.
probably.
73s. Yeah.
Take care.
73.